Pain. 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 Pain.
In the early days of Mondas, it was a prosperous civilization. The grass was green and the sky was pale blue. You could see your reflection in the water and walk onto the surface without armour. Its beauty was almost unparalleled. You could see children playing on every street and colony ships being built to finally explore and populate the wider universe. But of course, all good things come to an end. Now all that's left of this once utopia is nothing but the stench of death and destruction, graveyards being robbed from every midnight, robotic policemen patrolling the streets on their horses, and decaying limbs on the outskirts of the city. I am old enough to remember what was and what could have been. I remember the day they took my family, the day I watched my daughter scream as the robotic men grabbed her. I remember the ghastly human-like face underneath the thin mask of cloth that she managed to undo. How could I forget? I remember the time I spent looking around the barren wastelands for an answer, forming an alliance with criminals to try and figure out what was going on and where my family was taken. Now I know only one thing. My family is no more. They are long gone, and I am left to live in the shadows. All of a sudden there was propaganda all around me. People handing out stained ballots and broadcasts of this mysterious new armour. An armour ever so familiar to me. This was the armour that took my family. Every day the event gets hazier inside my mind, but I vow never to forget it. As long as I am alive, I shall never forget my family and what I intend to do about losing them. A part of me likes to believe that they just found a way to escape this hellhole and make their way onto a colony ship. I'm not sure how many they finished, but I'm sure they finished at least one. I know my blind hope and optimism has no place here, but is the only thing keeping me going on as plagues and inner conflict keep trying to destroy me. The optimism I hold dear is the only thing keeping me from death, and yet I feel it fading away like my memories. I have to figure out what this armour is, and who was wearing it. The advertisements claim they're going to be used to go onto the surface that is uninhabitable and desolate. But I feel as if the dream to breathe natural air and live how we were supposed to is the only thing keeping the poverty around me alive. This project, Exodus, has given us all hope. Dreams of becoming one with Mondas once again and walking on the surface that was once a utopia. Personally, I've believed the dream to be dead and foolish. Living on the streets and evading police horses taught me the truth of Mondas, the inner workings, and one day I found out what this armour was. It was shortly after the propaganda, when Mondas was prospering. I remember the day my son was born, the glee on my wife's face as she cradled our newborn child, who at the time was entering a world fit for a child. I have fond memories of my daughter meeting him for the first time and the gobsmacked look on her face, the tantrums she had when she thought she was being replaced, long before we started replacing our own body parts. I remember when my son fell ill and we looked after him. I remember when my daughter was starting to get thinner and thinner until she was merely a husk of her former self. I remember when we went on the run after being chased by the armoured men and turning around to see nobody in sight. It was only when I found my family, or at least what remained of them, that everything fell into place. The truth was revealed about society and what this armour really was. My family are dead. My children are nothing but spare parts apart from my wife, who stood over them in bloody silver casing apart from her hands. The wedding ring I once gave her was covered in blood, and her other hand was non-existent. Just a lump covered in mould and blood. I could tell it was her as I looked at my children in shock. I could sense it. Her mask was falling off, and I remember screaming and wiping away my tears in anger and confusion. So many emotions as she looked at me with her dismantled face, a dead face that was so familiar, yet wasn't. A face I was once in love with. I remember her grabbing me with great strength she never had before. I don't remember much anymore, not even the optimism that was keeping me alive. My memories and fears are withering away as my mind tries to fight back. The love I once had for my children were not going to save me. I could still hear my daughter's cries fading away into the dark depths of my mind. I only remember one thing. I only remember the pain that I felt. The everlasting pain. 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 As I am tasked with collecting the spare parts from the room in which my children were as the world dies around me, while I am destined to live forever. Pain. Pain. Where are my children? Who am I? Where is my wife? Pain. Pain. Pain.